Okay, so here we are, day 2. I'm starting to prep for the plumbing. Now you can see here I kind of have a little bit of a layout going. To start off, this section here and this will be below the floor, but for all intents and purposes, this is just to show a representation of what it's going to look like inside the island. These gaps you see here are essentially going to be 2-inch pieces of pipe that'll just infill them completely. But if you look here, I have a little diagram that kind of shows what I'm working with. So I have 2-inch vent lines at the higher elevation, and then I have the 2-inch sanitary line at the lower elevation. And so this will eventually tie into the 4-inch main that I have underneath the crawl space. But then I'm using 2 combo Ys with a 45 to have that water drain down to the sanitary. And then I'll have a sanitary T for the vent line as it connects to this piece over here. So this is the vent line, which is this section here, and it's going to go up the wall cavity. Additionally, I'll have a clean out in the cabinet space of the island so that I can clean out any potential, build up, in case water does not drain out. And then this will be the actual drain for the sink itself. So this will be in the wall cavity, little pony wall area as well. And then on the very end of the drain, the combo Y with the 45, I'll have a clean out as well. So underneath the crawl space, in case anything gets built up here and I am unable to remove it, I can go underneath the crawl space and just flush it out. So that's the goal right there, to get this roughed in inside the house. I'm going to start by going in the crawl space and marking the location of where the penetrations will be for the sanitary, the venting, and also the water supply. So I didn't mark it up on this drawing here, but I'll have to build a little pony wall behind the cabinet so that I can anchor this piece of PEX bend support bar, and then the water lines for the hot and the cold will come in through here with some of these bend supports. So these get attached to this piece here, and then I'll have the water coming in at 90 with these pieces, and the same thing applies for the hot water. So this will be also we're working on this concurrent with the plumbing, with the sanitary plumbing. And so once we get this going, I'm able to close it up. I can't close up the wall until I actually have all this roughed in. And then I don't have the pieces with me, but I'm also adding 2 electrical outlets on both ends of the wall, so I have to get that electrical rough and complete. So that's the goal, to get started on the plumbing and the electrical. After that's done, I'll close it up, and then I'll work on the support legs, and then I'll finish it off with adding the top piece, plywood. So let's get going on that. Let's go take it back inside and continue working on this. Let's go. Okay, so here we are in the crawl space. You can kind of see some of the plumbing that I'll have to work with over there. I put some plastic down just so I can get in and around this area. Sometimes it gets pretty wet down here, and I don't want to be moving around in a bunch of mud. But in any case, so you can kind of see over there, that pipe right there, that's my vent line. And if I go up higher, there it is right there. It's kind of focusing a little bit, but that's my vent line that I have to tie into from below. And I have this joist running right next to it, so I have to be on this side of the 2x4. I'm sorry, this 2x10. And so my wire, you can kind of see it here a little bit. You see that little wire there? That's where I'm going to poke down for my vent line. Now my sanitary can be on the other side of this. I just have to make sure that I'm drilling it in the right location so that it's actually sloping up as needed for the vent and down as needed for the sanitary, and so it can go into the waste. So that's the goal. I need to go ahead and cut these holes in the right locations. And so now that I have my location identified below, I'm going to go back up into the island area and cut the hole out, and then eventually we'll start roughing everything in. But I just wanted to make sure I have this step figured out before I do any drilling. So let's get going on that. Okay, so we're back inside. This is a little piece of wire that I fished through the crawl space to understand where I was working with. And so I realized that I have to move it in a little bit more, and so I had to remove this stud that was here, and so, which is fine. Again, this is why I wanted to make sure I was in my right location, because my vent line is on that wall and I have to be on this side since there's obstructions in the way underneath the crawl space with the block and beam foundation. if I were to move the piping further in, I would have to demo some of the block and beam, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to move it out this way and just remove this piece, and then that way I have a clear shot to my vent line and a clear shot to my main drain line. So I'm going to get going on that. I'm going to start cutting out these holes, and then we'll prep for the outlets and then the roughing into the cabinet itself. So let's get going on that. Okay, and now I'm back outside putting all the pieces together. I want to do this step before I connect all the pieces above the kitchen island. That way when I'm underneath the crawl space, I can just handle one piece at a time. And what I'm doing out here is I'm using this blue tape as my baseline for the finished floor on the kitchen island side. And I want to make sure my pipe is established at the right elevation. You don't want the pipe to be too low or too high, because you still have to make sure you have your proper slope going down to your main. If the slope is not steep enough, then the sewage tends to slow down and sometimes resulting in clogs. And then if it's too steep, the water and the solids can separate, and sometimes the solids will accumulate in the pipe, and you definitely don't want that at all. And now that the connections are complete above on the finished side of things, I can come back underneath the crawl space and make those final connections below the crawl space. So that's what I'm working on here, getting it prepared for final installation, and then eventually we'll make the final connections, but at least this part of it is done. That way I can go back up into the finished space and close up the wall so I can continue working on the island. Just like that. This will eventually connect down to the vent line, and then this one will eventually connect down to the drain. Okay, so we're back inside now, making all the final connections in this area. Remember, the goal is to get the island prepared so I can cover up the backside of this and then continue building the rest of the island. And so what I'm working on now is the water line supply for the hot and the cold, just so I can make those final connections. And so that's what I'm working on here, getting this last bit of piping in so I can close up this wall. Got my cold water coming in, getting it terminated just like that, and then I do the same thing for the hot, and that's what it looks like when it's done. One thing I did not end up doing is, you can see my clean out is on the left hand side and then my sanitary drain is on the right side. I was going to do a clean out on top of my drain, but since my sink is a little deep, I would be unable to access it, and so I did a clean out on the left side just in case anything does end up clogging on that side. But if something does clog on the right side of the drain, I can just remove the adapter and make those adjustments as needed to clean it out. Okay guys, so this is what we have down here. This 4-inch main right here, from about that Y right there is coming out. And so you can see this was from the original build. Not done too well. Looks like this strap already came out from me working here, so this part here caved in the middle. And so this whole section used to feed the old restroom that was above. Now we're just gonna have a clean main line that'll support the new kitchen island. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start working on getting this whole section removed, and then we're gonna start working back to tying in the main, and then eventually connecting the 2-inch line, sanitary line for the kitchen island. We're gonna keep working on getting this tightened up and make it look a million times better. So let's get going on that. Okay, so what I did there is I cut a section off and then I'm letting it drain. So I know that's one of the lowest spots, and that was the easiest point for me to actually get rid of. And so what I did after I cut it, I installed the bucket right underneath it. It did spill a little bit, but again, this is the dirty work of dealing with plumbing. All right, you're gonna deal with a little bit of a smell and a little bit of water. And so good thing I have some latex gloves in case I need to stop anything, and so you want to use some latex gloves as well, so you can kind of hear the water running there a little bit, just draining into the bucket. So that's what it's doing. I'm going to let that drain for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and actually start cutting it off in sections, and then start getting them out of here. Once that piece is out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the new one. So let's keep going. Okay guys, so the pipe is now out. Whew, that was a messy process, but you want to remove your plastic before you even attempt to get rid of the pipe. And so I removed the plastic. A lot of the water is underneath the plastic, so that's something you can do as well if you're doing it this way. And so you can kind of see it's empty. The big pieces are now out. Now what I'm going to do is clean them up and then start tying the Y with the 4-inch main with the coupling over there. And so that's going to give it a nice clean finish. And then shortly after that's done, I'm going to start working my way back this way towards the actual kitchen sanitary line, kitchen island sanitary line. So, and then once the sanitary is complete, I'm going to go ahead and connect the water sources to the hot and cold, and then the fridge ice maker box, and then the pot filler as well. So let's go ahead and clean that up over there, and then we're going to go ahead and start tying in the coupling and then the Y. So let's get going on that. Let's see how this goes. All right, so this piece will go right here, and then the vent line or the sanitary drain will tie into this going that way and then back over to the line. So let's get going on installing the first piece. First thing I'm gonna do, okay, so from here, this is my island. I'm gonna do my vent line first, go high, and then do my drainage pipe. So let's work on that. All right, now let's measure this bad boy. So there it is. There's my vent, my drain. Vent's going up high. Drain's going low. That's the new tie-in point there. And then back over there is the existing tie-in. There you have it. And then there is my drain line, or my vent line going up into the attic through the wall cavity. There it is, guys. This is how I did my plumbing for my kitchen island. We'll see you guys again inside as we finish this space out. Next thing to do is the supply water. The water connections. Okay guys, now I'm gonna connect my hot and cold water supply. Now, originally, when I planned it all out, I said to myself, I'm gonna go ahead and use my old kitchen water. And so here are the sources. I previously capped them because I knew I was gonna use them again. And now I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of this cap and then go ahead and connect them both. So let's do that. Okay guys, check it out. So my plumbing is now complete down here for the kitchen island. I did the sanitary, the sanitary waste, the vent line up there. Water, connected the hot and cold water to my previous bathroom connections, and then I also did my ice maker connection on that side. I do have to come back and do my pot filler connection, but that's pretty easy. I'll do that after the fact. But everything is complete down here. I am going to insulate these lines eventually and organize them a little bit more, but there you have it. This is now complete. We'll see you guys back upstairs and get the final connections terminated, and then we'll start putting the kitchen island to use. Okay, so the plumbing is now complete. I've also done the water supply, got the hot and the cold water roughed in. For now, this is complete to where I can at least start covering it up. So I'm gonna now install the plywood piece and start trimming it out. At the very end, I'll install a top plywood piece, but I at least wanted to get this section covered up and start working on the post. That way I can have my cabinet guy come in and start taking field measurements for the countertops. So let's keep going on that. We'll work on the back piece, trimming it out, and then installing the support post. So that's the next step. Okay, so this is where we're at so far. So I've installed a trim piece at the bottom, and I've installed the plywood piece here to cover up the cabinet. Now what I'm working on is getting the support posts installed. After that's complete, I'm going to go ahead and just install a top piece of plywood and then call it a day. I have to continue working on some trim, but you know, I have to get ready for the work week and have to wrap this one up for today. So let's just install these, and then we'll continue it on the next couple of days by trimming it out, and then we'll get the rest of the paint going, and then eventually the countertop. So let's install these suckers.